What is up, everybody?
All right.
Man, those are some cool graphics.
Yeah.
Man, those animations are sweet.
Yeah.
I like that. That's awesome.
Loving that map. Shout out to Sean for making that map. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That map is awesome.
I love it.
How's everybody doing?
Oh, we're doing great. It's Tuesday.
Awesome.
Hello. Tuesday.
David, I didn't realize how far south you were. Like the entire time beforehand, I just assumed you and Cody were like, Texas. They're probably like neighbors almost. And I was like, oh my God, they're so far away. It's like a totally different state, as if, I don't know. I was blown away. You're way down there, bud.
Bro, it's like 9 hours away from me. So.
Oh man, that's crazy. I thought that was cool.
We had to zoom that map down just far enough because it was almost Mexico right there, man.
Oh man.
The border's like 2 minutes away. It's right here.
That's why your food looks so good in all the pictures you send us. I love it.
Everything's bigger in Texas, right? I mean, I see somebody from Ohio. I'm like, oh yeah, let's meet up. And then it's like, shit, Texas. I'd be like, yeah.
Not gonna happen. Cody's like, hey, we should do a collaboration or whatever. I'm like, yeah, 8 hours away. It'll be an expensive drive.
Yeah, he's probably closer to collaborate with me and Bill in Missouri than he is to you down there in South Texas.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That was cool. That was really cool, Sean. I'm glad you put that together for us. That was neat.
Yeah, you're welcome. It's on the USDA growing zone base map. So, you could see where we all are and see who's in a similar zone to you. So, kind of who's got the same conditions and same kind of considerations for making your decisions too. So hopefully it'll be more useful than just our dots on the map and stuff. But yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah. Not only is it on the US map, that it's also on our website, KOTG.live. So guys, head on over to KOTG.live. You can actually see that map a little closer, click on it, zoom in, and you can read a little bit about us, our yards, our lawn, or what kind of mowers we use. So all that information is out there, plus all our live casts. So you can go back and watch ones and listen to ones you haven't listened to before. So
awesome. So yeah, everybody, welcome to Keep Off the Grass live cast. If you've never been here before, we are first off, Keep Off the Grass live cast, the best lawn care podcast out in the world right now.
Yeah.
And if you've never been here before, we're not pros, we're DIYers, and we just talk through subjects, and we're trying to learn from each other, trying to bounce ideas off each other, learn from you guys in the chat. So with that, you want to raise a glass?
Yes.
Keep off the grass. I will say, if you guys could please hit the like button, subscribe if you're not subscribed. We recently hit 1,000 followers, over 1,000 followers on our Instagram. But we need some love on YouTube. So if you guys could help us out there, greatly appreciate it. Everybody who's shared the episode post this week or promoted the post for us, we really, really appreciate that. All the viewers, I saw a lot of people out there, too many to name off the top of my head. So tonight, though, we have another DIYer with us, and that is Weekend Warrior Lawn. So he won the drawing last week. So I'm going to kick it over to him and get this started.
Guys. Thank you, Zach.
Welcome, Brad.
Welcome, brother.
Happy to be here. So I've been keeping up with you guys since the beginning. Really appreciate the support of the DIY community and the way that you guys interact with the chat. And I just love the format and the vibe of the show. And I figured why not try and get on there and talk a little bit about my grass. So here I am, but I'm just one of you guys, same as everybody else in the chat. I'll give you a quick rundown of my backstory lawn wise. I grew up here in Connecticut not too far from where we live now. So cool season grass always was my thing. My dad was a Scott's 4-step program guy. So it was always, what color bag are we throwing down this month? And got really, used to that rhythm and that flow and weekly mowings. We had about an acre, so we ended up eventually having a riding mower, and that's probably when I got the bug for mowing. Was the riding mowers over the years, and then ultimately my first house that I owned, I actually lived in Atlanta for 8 years. So I was down there, had a hybrid Bermuda Tifway 419, 100% mono stand down there, and that is a completely different thing for those of you who've done Bermuda and done cool season. There's really just no comparison. They grow completely differently and all that. It's total steep learning curve if you're not from there. And but one thing I learned pretty quickly was mow it low and mow it often. So I picked up a reel mower, got a California trimmer on Craigslist, tuned it up, tweaked it up, and put a roller on the front, and was mowing down by the end of my time there. I think I was down at about 3/4 of an inch or just below. So I was the only lawn on the block that, if any of you guys have a Tifway 419 lawn, you know that if you mow it tall, every time you mow it, it just turns brown because all you see is the crowns. And that was just blasphemy to me. I was not going to have a lawn that looked bad when you mowed it. So I said, I'm going to mow it low enough to where the crowns aren't visible. So, fast forward, we sold our house in Atlanta. We moved to New York for work, lived in the city with no grass to admire or look at or care for. And we were there for about 5 years and finally moved back out to the suburbs here a couple of years ago. And I'm still just figuring out this cool season thing again. I feel like it's been a full circle journey, but just figured out what type of grass I have in the past month or so, with a ton of grass and weed ID, triage, pictures and various posts and blog posts and all sorts of stuff. I finally figured out that this lawn, as much as I've been throwing down Kentucky bluegrass seed and all this elite stuff from Seed Superstore, it's everything I throw down is darker green than what was already here. So I'm thinking to myself, all right, I've got this kind of, old school lawn, like Alan Haynes says. If it's growing, don't kill it. I don't know enough about my grass yet to blow it up. So I'm just kind of rolling with it. And I, started looking at it though in the spring. Now this is my first real full year of serious lawn care. I started the Instagram around Memorial Day last year. So this is my first spring where I'm actually applying stuff, and I winterized last year and all that. And started looking at it. I'm like, why is most of my grass light green? There's patches of dark. All right, let me pull up the, what's everybody's talking about, Poa Triv, Poa Annua. Got pretty familiar with what Poa Annua looks like. I got that in my front yard after a renovation last fall. The Annua is obviously bunching in circles that are about yay big. The Triv, on the other hand, is the hardest one to figure out because I know my entire backyard's not the same thing. You could see in some of those pictures there, but I don't know if Zach's got any close-ups. You could see a couple different thicknesses of blades. They're all light green though. So I started looking at, is there a, what do you call that, ligule, all that, go down those rabbit holes, and how long is it? And what are the seed, is there any seed heads? Long story short, which I know it's already long-winded here, but long story short, it's a blend of Poa supina and Poa trivialis. So most of you probably not even heard of Poa supina, but it is it's native to Europe, sort of the lower Alps, very popular in Germany. You can see in the pictures Zach's putting up there, that's the grass in the top left corner is when I first inherited it. About a week after we moved in, I took that snap. And then top right corner is after I sprayed Tenacity blanket spray last year, thinking, I'm just gonna, get out there and use that as my pre-emergent for the beginning of spring because I want to do some overseeding. This is about 12 months ago. And that was maybe a week after that, my heart sunk, and my wife said, I think you loved your grass too much, when the entire thing turned white. I'm thinking to myself, it says, I'm way under the rate for phytotoxicity for Kentucky bluegrass, for perennial rye. What the heck is this stuff? It wasn't until about a month ago that I realized that Poa supina is the genetic parent of Poa annua. It is literally the mother plant of Poa annua. So it was crossbred to give us the devil Poa annua. You go back in the lineage, Poa supina is a pretty sweet grass. It grows like a weed in shade, really thick. It has a ton of stolons, and it's very interesting. Water requirements are different than a lot of other cool season grasses because it's shallow roots, just like Poa annua. So we get started talking about irrigation here in a few minutes. My input's going to be a little bit different. I realized I was far over watering last summer. So
Wow.
So does it go dormant? Does it go dormant like Poa triv?
It goes dormant, but it's more cold tolerant than Poa triv because it's, like I said, it's native to like Austria, Germany, the lower Alps.
Because around here, the Poa triv will basically it'll go to sleep in the summer. And if you don't catch it before then, when it comes back, it's going to be larger patch.
Right. Yes. Last summer, I noticed here, I went pretty hard on watering, as I was watching it, and kelp and RGS, and I was throwing everything I could at it to try to get the roots to behave and beef up. And, standard heat stress where 1 out of every 15 blades is getting a little thin and brown. And you're like, what's going on? Is this fungus? Is this stress? Is it dry? But part of the reason why I'm committed to just seeing what happens with this grass is because I'm covered in probably 80% shade all the time in my yard. So I know nothing else is going to grow this well. So I'm sort of protected, and we don't get hot for, I'd say, more than maybe a month at most. And it's not constant. We get cool nights even in that time. So you can deal with it, throw enough water at it.
Sean Eggert wants to know if does it spread by stolons?
It absolutely does. Yep. I just got a pro plugger, and I'm having fun with that right now, trying to figure out exactly how far it'll spread, how quick, but it sure does.
Interesting.
It's looking, man. You got some laser beams on those pictures, man. It looks nice.
Thank you.
Good.
Thank you. That's the Big League Lawns kit doing me a lot of favors.
All right, so let's get into irrigation here. So let's start off, who's got an irrigation system? What do you use? What system do you use? What heads do you use? How much head do you get? Let's get into it.
So I'll talk about mine real quick because hey, I'm desert, right? So we can only survive on irrigation systems. And I kind of put some stories out there on my Instagram, so some people saw it. But I moved into a new house, no lawn, nothing. And, I had the opportunity to either pay somebody to professionally put it in. And again, my yard's only 2,500 square feet, guys. So it's not a big yard, but these guys were quoting like $6,000 to put in a sprinkler system. And I said, how hard can it be? So, I did some YouTube watching and learned about some stuff, and I ended up getting a trencher, and you had to trench all the lines. And, I went 1-inch PVC pipes in all my lines. And as Olee knows, I went with a Hunter heads to get the PSI. Mine are PSI 40, so they're regulated. I went with the MP rotators because where I live, the wind is crazy. Like, it's bad wind. Drunk Lawn Guy will tell you all about the tumbleweed and stuff that we get going on.
It's like catching up.
But we'll get 20 to 30 mile an hour winds. And so if you had any of the typical spray heads, it would just water your neighbor's yard. It would water your street and stuff like that. So these MP rotators will circle around, and they're thicker. Most of you guys have probably seen them. So they're thicker, and they'll get onto the grass a little bit better. And then I went with the Ratio 3 Wi-Fi controller. I'm traveling again. I'm in California, but I could turn my sprinkler system on right now, water my grass, or I could watch it. I get notified. I get notifications that pull up and say, hey, your zone 1 started, and it's going to run for X amount of time. So that feature I love. I love the Wi-Fi controllers. Zach pulled up some. So it's like that one, the Ratio 3 one down at the bottom. Mine is an 11 zone one or 12 zone one or something like that. But yeah, I mean, these are lifesavers. I've had the manual ones where you have to go out and program a time, and you turn the dial and you start at this, that, and the other. The Ratio isn't like that at all. It is purely Wi-Fi. There is that center button where you can kind of go through and do a manual control, but other than that, I love it. You know, artificial rain, yeah, it costs money, but you have a lot more control. So when I fertilize, I can water. When I put herbicides down, or I put pesticides down, stuff, anything like that, I can control the rain. I don't have to worry about watching that weather app to see when the next rain's going to come. So yeah, that's my
Brian, when you were setting up your zones, did you go into the advanced settings with you can go into how much of an angle it is and what kind of dirt you have and your root depth and all that stuff?
Yeah, that was another cool thing about the Ratio is you can put in the soil type. Do you have clay? Do you have clay loam? Do you have sandy loam? Do you have sand? All that kind of stuff. So you can put the type of soil that you have. You can put what angle that particular yard's at. Yeah, I mean, you can really dial it in. It can skip if it, like let's say, 20-mile-an-hour winds too much, you can put that as a stopper. And if it's supposed to be turning on right now and it's that windy, it won't turn on, it'll skip. And so you really get to save water that way. If it's rained X amount, again, you control the time, but if it's rained a certain amount of time in a 48-hour period, it won't turn on. So that's helpful for us, especially, we're in the drought in Utah. And so that's helpful too, to really control the watering so you're not wasting. Because I have neighbors that are 2 houses down, and literally it's just running down the street, running down the gutter into the drain because they have those traditional spray heads that just they're watering the street. They're not really watering the grass. So yeah.
The only problems with those rotators, Rainbird or Hunter, is you have to water so much more to get the same amount of water as you would out of the normal cone spray. It's the only downside to those things.
Yeah, like my zone will run for 58 minutes, but again, with the Ratio, it actually cycles through the zone. So one zone will run for 15 minutes, then it'll go to that next zone for 15 minutes, and it'll cycle through, and then it comes back to zone 1 again for another 15 or so minutes.
Yeah, it's the soak skip.
Yep. Yeah. And so it gets it down to the roots, make it go down as deep as it can. Yeah.
Hey, Brian, and out in Utah, in your location, do you have one of those secondary kind of irrigation only water supplies?
So my city doesn't. There's a city right next to me that does. I don't know what the difference is between them, but no, mine is culinary water. So it's coming straight out of the main line. I had to tie into the main line, separate the two. So I have one line that goes into my house, and then another line that goes off for the sprinkler system. So I think the secondary water system would be nice, but you have to like the filters and all that kind of stuff to catch all the gunk that gets ran through all those kind of water lines.
Yeah.
Real quick, we got a question from John. John's asking, how do we recommend fixing PVC in heads? John, what's actually going on with it? Have you pinned down what the issue is? Is it a crack in the lateral line? Is it a bad head? Is it a bad valve?
That's
kind of hard to say from there, because I've been doing a lot of that lately, changing a lot of heads, had some lines changed.
Yeah, you've been chasing head all over your yard now.
I have, man. It's just I never stop. Now I got to fix the valve, everything.
So other than that Ratio, I mean, anybody else got an automated system? What else we working with?
Yeah, I got 12,000 square feet in ground. Got 42 sprinkler heads on my property, mixed between the rotators. Excuse me. Mixed between the rotators and your normal curtains. Trying to go around and slowly replace the old 25-year-old Hunter PGPs that leak with either new Hunters or Rainbird 42 SA pluses.
How many
And,
zones is that, Andy?
I have 10 zones.
So do you start watering at 2 in the morning, or?
I start watering at 4 when I'm going to do it. So the sun will be up at a little after 6, and I'll start watering around 4.
Wow.
It wants to run, 4 hours. I cut that down. The water bill, I want a nice lawn, but I'm not okay with a $600 water bill. So it gets cut back a little bit.
I tell you, mine actually starts at around 1:30 in the morning because it'll cycle through it. It will, and see right now with the, it affects with it's called the weather intelligence, right? It's supposed to take into effect like 33,000 weather stations. And so mine actually, because of the temperature, only runs once every 6 days. Now in this month, it will do one every 4 days. And then I looked up, like in July, it'll be like every other day. So as time goes on, it kicks in and waters a little bit more, and then it will actually back off when the weather starts changing and it cools down and the water doesn't evaporate as quickly.
Dang, that's pretty nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Rachia is awesome, man. I have the same thing. It works great. You can get a little too in depth with it. You can add the slope so it can add more cycles into that soak cycle, so it knows if you got to run a zone for 35 minutes, but it's at a steep slope and it only gets a little bit of sun, it's going to run it for 2 or 3 minutes and then skip to something else, come back and run it for 2 minutes, skip to another zone, and it's going to keep doing that, so you're not just getting water runoff down onto the street.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Sweet. Anybody else got automated systems? I mean, anybody before we move on? Anybody else?
I have an automated system. It is not an in-ground system, but I tell you what, Zach and I brought a little show and tell tonight. We got the Milnor 4-zone. I don't even know what it's called, but this thing works pretty awesome. It's not Wi-Fi or whatever, but getting that 4 zones, setting it up with your heads for those of us that don't have the in-ground system, it gets the job done. Especially the biggest thing for me is get me through the summertime. I'll leave the sprinklers out and try to hide the hoses the best I can, but it helps me limp through summer. And then when it comes to fall overseeding, man, it's awesome. I tell you what, having some kind of a system in place, even if you got hoses running around trying to hide them, around the perimeters of your lawn as best you can, it helps me get through the summertime and the fall overseeding. I think right now, I'm not pushing anything, but $50 on Amazon, it's not a bad deal. The only thing I would like is if it had some kind of Wi-Fi or something, and that's something I'll look into down the road, is something where, if you got some rain coming, you don't have to run outside with the umbrella to your little hose on the side of the house to turn it off or delay it. But yeah, as far as timers goes, those of us that don't have in-ground systems that we can kind of set up with our phones and stuff, it's nice to have something like that. And this one works pretty well for me.
So Bill, showing that controller again, so you're calling 4 zones. So it basically looks like 4 hose nozzles coming out of there. Do you actually have 4 hoses hooked up?
There it is. Yeah. So one of my sides, I got all 4 hooked up. And then on the other side of my house, I have just 2 zones because I share that side of my property with my neighbor. Mm-hmm. But, and then, then the other 2 you can leave open for manual hosing or whatever. So we'll set up the sprinklers for kids out back, having fun, when it's hot outside, just running through the sprinklers and stuff. But yeah, you could set up, I think it's like 4 different times during the day, as long as you want. It's very versatile. And for a small yard like what I have, it's great to have that. One side has more square footage than the other. So having either one on either side, it has a lot of versatility, and you don't have to have them all going. And then you can set up a couple for the backyard. It's a nice thing to set up. I tell you, irrigation is my least favorite part about lawn care, especially if you're out there setting timers on your phone, moving fan sprinklers. And it's like, there's no fun to it really. You want to have something where you can just kind of set it and forget it. And this really helps with that.
Okay. So how long of hose? You're talking 25, 50 feet, 100 feet. So Olee's got a long load.
How long's your hose, Bill?
The amount of willpower that we have in this group right now And the amount of times that hose has been said, no comments, is astounding.
Nobody talk about how long my hose is.
All kinds of hoses, you guys. Oh man.
Yeah, Olee gets his hose out in the yard, and his neighbors don't even have to see it. You know, us in the suburbs, we could drag our get our hoses out and then right in front of the neighbors all the time.
Well, and I mean, you know, Olee's got such a big yard. He's got a lot of hose out in the yard.
You know, and I don't think it's how long the hose is. I think it's how thick it is. You know, how thick's your pipe? How thick? How thick is your pipe? That's what I want to know.
It's how you use it, right? It's
right.
I hope the commenters appreciate my instigation of these people. I knew this was going to happen.
Children, a lot of us.
Yeah.
Really though, like I'm trying to say this cleanly, but how thick is the pipe that you're working with? I mean, like, you know, because you know, as far as like water pressure goes, you know, to get adequate pressure, you know, that all plays a role. You know, you got like a big water, like a firefighting hose type thing, you know, like what do you got?
Well, yeah, it was there's 3/8, right? Is there a 3/8?
3/8, there's a
half inch,
3/4,
5/8, 5/8,
yeah,
3/4,
5/8, 3/4,
half inch, dude, 100% half inch. That's what I got.
Common garden hose is 5/8.
Okay.
Yeah.
Common garden hose.
You go up from there to 3/4.
And then if you got a serious water hose, it'll be a 1-inch.
And I noticed that actually because you know, I water trees and stuff and bushes, whatever. So you know, I got the 5/8 one, contractor, you know, it's red, so hey, firefighter hose, whatever. But it actually has a lot more pressure to it than when I put the 3/8 one on. So I mean, I guess if you have to have that bigger one to have the bigger pressure.
Hey,
what about flow?
Bill, how many heads were you running off each zone? Just one?
Oh man, so much head. No, I got bad boys too. So I just have like a small residential yard. I honestly don't even know what pressure I get. I just look and see if these fans can hit what I'm trying to get. So each zone have one of these bad boys on. I tell you what, these things are amazing, very versatile. They're crazy expensive now. When I got them, $20 on Amazon right now. I just looked, $62. It's insane.
Wow.
But something where you if you have a narrow spot, you can do it. You can adjust how wide the fan goes, how much it, you know, I don't know. They're very versatile. So, yeah, I have no idea. One per zone, and I set it up, 15, 30 minutes, whatever it is. I do the whole Allen Hayne, set the tuna can out to see how many inches you're getting each time you do it, just to make sure, I'm not under or over watering. But yeah, no. And then with the spike too, the spike minimizes the amount of touch to the grass, because if you put those big sleds out, they'll get, turn yellow. But these guys, they're so low profile, almost nothing is touching the grass when it's sitting out above. The biggest thing is your kid will run over them with their power wheels and bust one, and then you're out $60. But beyond that, no, they were great.
Hey,
Brad, have to get one of those. I like that, because I just have the I have the Orbit gear drives, and I kind of move them around. So that, I mean, they're great, but like you're saying, for like a narrow space, I know like on the sides of my house, it's really kind of hard to, I adjust the spray in like this so that it's try to make it as small as possible, but it's still, I'm still hitting the side of my house or spraying onto my neighbor's yard, which, one neighbor, I don't care. The other one, I'm kind of like, I don't want to water your yard for you.
Yeah, I'm lucky to have, like, my yard is just a couple of different rectangles is all it is. So having the fan style is easy for me versus the rotary sprayers. And then these you can adjust them very easily. And then, I mean, yeah, if you hide the hose, your grass is nice and thick with these cool season lawns. You can't even see the green hose. You see this little bad boy sitting there, and nobody cares because my grass is so sexy. Got this little black little nugget sitting in the middle of my lawn. Nobody, it's a deal. So yeah, it sits there all summer long, man. It's out there every day.
Interesting.
I only move them to mow.
Hey, Brad, what did you say you had in-ground or you're also doing sprinklers?
Yeah, no, we inherited an in-ground system. We moved in here. There was an old, I can't even remember what brand controller was there. until this year. And I finally just broke down and got a Wi-Fi after running out there in the middle of the summer during the downpour and the sprinklers are running. By the time I get back inside, my shoes are soaked. I'm soaked. The yard is saturated. So I'm all for the Wi-Fi. I went with the simple. My first time in a smart controller is the Orbit Beehive controller. So it's got an app, and it lets you set up a bunch and save a bunch of extra programs, and it's been really handy with some overseeding, and it is responsive to the forecast as well. Not quite in the same way. It doesn't sound like it's the Ratio with quite as much detail, but it knows when it's going to rain, which I thought was a huge plus over just having a rain sensor.
Yeah.
I know that sounds simple, but if I know it's going to rain at 11 a.m., I'm not going to water it, early morning, unless I'm in an overseed situation.
So for you guys that aren't using Wi-Fi, that do a timer or go stand out there with a hose and spray your yard, what time of day? Because there's somebody in the chat there, I just saw that. They want to know what time of the day you guys are doing your watering.
I do my morning.
I want my watering done before the sun comes up.
Yeah.
I usually go by around 5 a.m. To go to the gym. So when I'm getting ready, I go outside and turn on the I have a little sled sprinkler, Orbit. The ones that go like that.
Mm-hmm.
It covers my 1,200 square feet front lawn pretty well. I usually go turn it on for 15, 20 minutes. I'll go get ready, and then I'll be back in 15, 20 minutes, and I'll turn it off. That's it.
So then, most everybody's doing morning, right? So
yeah.
So let's dumb it down. Why are we watering in the morning before the sun comes up or whatever?
I kind of want to hear from Lush a little bit. Like, he's got the most heat out of all of us. I mean,
yeah.
So what's your schedule like?
Well, for me, bro, you start seeing sunlight around 6:30 or 6-ish. So I want to have it 1 hour before, so I can, have it, a bit moist a little bit, and then so it can dry out of the day. Once it dries out, it's dried out by 9 a.m. or 10. It's already dried out, and then I go back at like around 1 p.m. and I do it with manually with the hose, but a good 3-5 minutes, and that's it. The reason why I do it early is because of disease pressure. You don't want to keep it too moist for a long period of time, because with St. Augustine, or especially down here, you're asking for fungus if you overwater. So that's the reason why I usually do every other day, or I can try to do every day. Depends on the temperature, but it's mostly every other day. Fungus kills me, guys. So that's the reason why that's the best time for me that works. And that's where, for all my clients, that's why I tell them the time around 6 or 15, 20 minutes, and that's it. And around like 3 to 5 minutes manually in the front, and that's it. So
yeah. And that's the same for us up here too. We want to get the water onto the grass where it can actually get into the soil before, it gets too hot into the day and evaporates up into the air. And you don't want to do it overnight and have your lawn sitting wet all night, because then that's when the fungus pressure starts to build up for cool season grasses too. So, that's kind of the secret, the secret reason to doing it in the morning, or, right as the sun is coming up, before the heat builds in the morning. I just do a little DIY sprinkler system with some of those Orbit Voyager rotary heads. And, I would just wake up, and as my coffee was brewing in the morning, I'd run out there, and I had one of those little mechanical shutoff timers. So I just run out there, turn the dial for 60 minutes, because I knew that gave me about a half an inch of water. And I would do that 2 or 3 times a week and get my, inch or inch and a half of water for the week. So, that's the reason why, we want to do it in the morning. So that the lawn isn't soaking wet all night, getting disease, getting the fungus kind of spreading, and then you get the water into the grass so it can soak in before if you water your lawn in the middle of the day, you're losing as much to evaporation as you're actually getting into the ground. So you want to do it before the heat and not let your lawn sit wet too long.
I'll tell you guys, when I was in Phoenix, talk about hot. I had to run it overnight because you're talking about 120 degrees in the midday, and you wake up at seriously 6 a.m. It's 93 degrees already, and so we had to set the timer to start going off around midnight or 1 o'clock and be done, just so that the water could get into the ground.
That's insane. That's crazy. Yeah.
I'd imagine with that heat, like you're not dealing with the same kind of fungus pressure, right? That we're dealing with, because it's still hot even when it's dark out. So you're not going to have that same kind of fungus pressure, I would imagine.
Yeah.
That we have here.
Yeah, when you have a low
no humidity, yeah.
Overnight, what was the grass type when you were in Phoenix? Was it Bermuda?
Yeah, it was Bermuda. Yeah, I had Bermuda.
Does anybody who has irrigation systems syringe kind of like run it, 4 or 5 o'clock at night, cool it down? Not really for a good deep watering, just to kind of cool off the grass. Does anybody
did it last year?
You did?
Yeah. My backyard just gets cooked. It's constant sun all day, and it's the highest spot of the lawn, so all the water runs off the sides. In the middle of it just gets cooked. So I was doing that about 4 o'clock. I'd run it for 5-6 minutes, cool it off, and then just wait for the next day.
Yeah, I do the same. I do that in my front yard because my front yard's straight full sun, faces west. So as soon as like 11 a.m. hits and it kind of cracks over the top of my house, it's straight special straight sun all all the rest of the day. So my front yard gets real stressed out from heat. So I do the same thing. In the summertime, I'll run out in the evening and just do like a real quick watering in the evening time, like you said, just kind of cool it off. And then same thing, like kind of like David was saying, I'm up in the morning to go run, and so I'll go run, and then as soon as I'm done, like throw the sprinklers on and make coffee and make my kids lunches and start getting going for the day, and just kind of keep track of the time, and then I just go move them around, which it's a little bit more labor intensive than like what Bill's talking about with just having it set up to where you have good coverage with multiple heads. I just like have one sprinkler on one hose for the front and one sprinkler on one hose for the back, and I can move them. Generally I can get away with like 3 positions, so I can just kind of go out there and move them.
Yeah, the typical 3.
I mean, it really, honestly, it just kind of, it depends on, how,
what are those positions?
How versatile you are as a person, Zach. I mean, you could get away with 3 positions or, like 4 positions.
Yeah. If you're more flexible,
how long your hose is.
Flexible? Are you limber?
Right.
Yeah, my first year doing overseeding, I didn't have any kind of timers, none programmable stuff, and I was just out there with sled sprinklers, a timer on my iPhone, set it for 50 minutes and then move it. So it was like midnight, and I wasn't quite done yet for the night. And I have a cop that lives in our neighborhood, and he comes up, the garage door's open, sprinklers are going on. He's like, knocks on my door and he's like, hey, your garage door's open. I'm like, oh yeah, no, I'm about to stop my sprinklers. It's okay. I'm going out there. I was like, I have to do something because I'm getting no sleep taking care of this overseeded grass. And it's a game changer. Getting some kind of a timer where you can just kind of set it and forget it. For me, that was a huge game changer. And those of you that have like an in-ground system that's programmable, you can turn it off with your phones. That's one thing that that's like on my wish list for lawn care DIY stuff, is to have something like that down the road. Because we love getting out there, mowing the lawn, laying down stripes, but rotating sprinklers is just, I don't know. Personally, I don't enjoy it, but it has to be done.
Yeah. Cam at Elevated Lawnscapes keeps telling me, he's like, oh man, you gotta do something about that. Stop moving those things around. He's like, we got to figure something out for you, dude. He keeps telling me. I'm like, yeah, I know. I'll just keep putting it off.
Olee, what do you got going on? I see you trying to chirp in a little bit.
I got first of all, I'm gonna have to get one of those up to date wireless. What'd y'all say, Ratio?
Yeah.
If it'll run 12, it'll run 12 zones. That's what I need.
Yep. Ole's gonna have it tomorrow.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was gonna say. He'll have it by Friday.
But I've got just some old, I don't know how old it is. It's a Toro controller right now. And years ago, I replaced all the heads. I had these I think they were Super 800s, and replaced all those with Toro T5s. But all of a sudden, all the Toro T5s are stripping out. You know, they pop up, but they won't rotate. And I actually had some pretty bad hot spots when I got back from vacation this past Sunday. I was like, what's going on? And, just because you turn your irrigation on don't mean it's coverage. So if you do have in-ground, turn it on, grab you a beer, walk out there, stand around and watch, because I had about 4 heads that were not moving a drop. They were spraying in just one direction the entire, cycle. So, and I'm replacing those with the Hunter I-20s. And the reason I chose those is I like the fact if you had a problem, you can cut that single head off and keep the rest of the zone running. Or if you had it up in a corner where it was already saturated and you wanted to cut the irrigation off in that corner but run that zone, those have basically an on and off on them. You can kill that particular head in that zone.
Oh, that's
like a plug or what? Like a plug?
It's you stick screwdriver in, just turn it off.
Yeah, that's badass.
It is. It's pretty badass. Yes, sir. And they, they have the check valves, which most of your higher end, they do have a check valve in them, where they don't run back. But I've got 12 zones. Each zone has 5 heads on it, and they're all the same type. I put most of the system in myself, and looking back, I wish I could do it again. I learn a lot. And, if you do have in-ground, if you've got a head up against the sidewalk that's turning 180 degrees, and then several other ones are turning a full 360, the one that's running that 180 degrees should have less of a nozzle in it, because it's going double time, boom, 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 boom. So if it's all of them's got the same amount of flow, that area beside the sidewalk, house, whatever, is going to get more water than out where the others are spinning the entire time.
Right. Okay.
So,
good call. Good call.
And then they should all be to where this hits this one and they all overlap as they're spinning. They shouldn't be so far apart that, the water never reaches, like most of mine are like 35 to 38 feet apart. And that way the water curtain hits the next area and they all get coverage as they spin. So yeah, I've learned a lot. Like I say, I done it myself. I had some help. We had some equipment and we went at it. And looking back now, I wish I could change some things and do things different. But, that's another project.
Yeah. And you bring up a good point, Olee, with the, some of the sprinklers have a check valve in them too. But, even if you're running a garden hose kind of setup off just a regular, garden hose faucet on the side of your house, make sure you're putting a backflow preventer on the hose bib itself. So that way you're not getting water running back into the house from your sprinkler system. And, most of the in-ground systems have the backfill preventers built in, near the valve box and stuff like that coming out of the house. Yeah. So if you have your own setup, just make sure you're putting your own little backflow valve on there.
Yeah, I have a separate tap for just irrigation. That way I don't have to pay sewage on what's watering the yard. I mean, I am on a city setup, but I got a killer deal. I mean, for where I'm at, it's in a small town. They do have wells, and I mean, it's very affordable. And it has a backflow preventer on that meter. But, and I've checked mine. I actually need to throw up a little video. I have 62 pounds of pressure, 20 gallons a minute. So I've got some really good pressure out here. I do like it. The only thing that I think is really stupid is all my underground plumbing is 1-inch PVC, and my meter is a 3/4 meter. And I've asked the city a couple times, hey, let's make it 1.25 inches, because I've learned a lot about flow and different hose size. Like one of my big sprinklers is actually run on a 1-inch lay flat hose. And y'all were talking about hoses a while ago. It's amazing the difference whenever you get a real 3/4 hose versus, whatever the smaller 5/8 and stuff, how much less drag there is on the water and how much farther time it hits the nozzle, it will go.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's back to the math we thought we'd never use in high school with, diameter, the cylinder and volume and, the pressure, all that stuff. You can really geek out on the calculations if you want to go that
because
deep
off the sides of most of your houses, you got a hose bib that's fed with either a 3/8 3/8 dang, I just forgot what it's called. Oh man, the flexible hose. I'll think of it here in a minute. PEX, there you go. Like 3/8 to 1/2 inch PEX. And everything that I've got outside are yard hydrants. And I actually learned a good bit about that too after having some fail. And the one I replaced them, I went with 1-inch high flow yard hydrants. And it's amazing the difference in the water flow there.
Yeah. Yeah. And all those fittings we put on too, like even, I said, put a backflow preventer on and I have them on all my hose bibs, but that kind of messes up the flow coming out of the hose a little bit. And then by the time you run through, your timer or your control, garden hose controller, that's messing with the flow a little bit too. So, that's all kinds of things we get to tinker around with and figure out as we get into this.
Hey guys, I want to do a quick timeout here. I think we got somewhere in the neighborhood of about 50 people watching the live chat right now. And I think they're all a little curious of who KOTG picked for Lawn of the Week.
Ooh.
So we'll go back to last week. Just a shout out again to Smoking Stripes at Alan Resenberger. He won our Lawn of the Week, and this one was a close one. We had 3 finalists, and we've been watching you guys and trying to figure out who's going to take it this week. And no surprise, he's got a great lawn. We all enjoy the interaction with him as well. So this week it is Drunk Lawn Guy.
Yeah.
Hey.
Yay.
All right.
Pew, 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 pew,
Good
pew,
man.
pew,
Get those
pew.
sunglasses on.
I love it.
Man.
Get them single doubles.
Yeah.
Sick.
And I
It
have
looks
to
so good, dude. The contrast is epic.
I have to brag a little bit. He is my neighbor, so I get to drive by and see that lawn on a daily basis. So
You should go steal a sod. Sod his lawn and go lay it down.
there you go. Yeah.
That's clean.
So congratulations to Drunk Lawn Guy. He's also we got another picture on here as well. I think it's super cool. If you have that one, Zach.
I wonder how does he get stripe on that parkway or hell strip there? That looks really good. How it just kind of flows into the actual yard. That's really nice.
Yeah, I'm
Just
loving his
cross
hats.
right over the sidewalk.
Yeah. Just keep walking.
Getting it.
Yeah, just go right over it. But his hats, he is the proud
dude,
asshole.
That's choice.
So
Nice.
awesome. Shout out to Drunk Lawn Guy.
Yeah, let me see here. I got what's this? I think this was a little earlier.
Yeah.
So this is no stripes. Still looking good.
But look at his knee. That's not my yard next
Looks
to
kind of
It's like dead
Augie
grass.
Doggy right there. Looks Augie Doggy-ish.
Augie doggy.
That's them dark green Cheetos.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
Congrats,
Awesome, man. Yeah. Sweet lawn.
Congratulations, man.
everybody else. Hey guys, we're watching, we're looking. Trust me, there's a few finalists every week. It comes down to voting on it. So just keep tagging us, KOTG Lawn of the Week, hashtag it, hashtag KOTG, whatever. We're looking at those, we're watching. So we'll have another one next week, and it could be you.
Yeah, go follow him too at Drunk Lawn Guy.
Yeah.
He posts some hilarious stories. He lost a beer, so he just went and grabbed another one. It's real life stuff, So go give him a follow. Real quick though, going back to irrigation, I heard Olee talk about testing or his pressure, the type of pressure he has, but has anybody ever tested their water to see what's in it? I know a lot of people get a lot of calcium from just irrigation from city water, or, depending on what water source you have, you get different nutrients and it can kind of affect, your soil. So I was just curious if anybody's done that.
That's a good point.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't do it myself, but our city runs its own municipal water system and was getting bought out by the other municipal provider. And they did a big water analysis and water study. So we got a really comprehensive water report, and they were pulling really crappy water out of the aquifers nearby. And it was super high in magnesium and super, super hard. So the city has, softeners installed in the city. But, I have a softener in my house too. And, putting all that magnesium in the lawn, I have a clay soil, so I know I'm high anyways in magnesium, but, I'm pretty sure that's what put me over the edge with such a super high magnesium level is, running the irrigation on it for the last few years. So, yeah, I mean, you definitely want to think about it. And, even, your municipal provider, if you're on city water, they have the basic water reports every year that they have to submit to the state and to like the EPA. And you can find those or call up your city hall and ask them for the water quality report to get the, get a basic level of what's in your water.
Hey, Brian, Drunk Lawn Guy works for the water company, so he can tell you all about your water.
Oh, definitely ask him. That's for sure.
Yeah, whatever.
Water.
The magnesium is what I was talking about, Sean. That's what I was going to get at. I see a lot of people on their soil tests have that high cal, high mag. That's like, that's real compacted, thick, breakable, cracking soil.
Crusty,
yep.
Yeah. Yep.
And I think, and actually, my magnesium level went up pretty high this year in my back lawn, and I watered it a ton in the fall. And that was my first year I've ever done that big of an overseed on my whole back lawn. So, it's interesting. And my pH went up. So, I mean, you look at the pH of your water too.
So talking about testing the water too, and also in the chat, this may go to Olee because Olee was talking about how good the water pressure is, but how do you test your water pressure? How do you know how many gallons per minute are you getting at your house to see what kind of setup you can put in?
I need to post a little video. I done that yesterday morning, but I just went and bought a couple fittings at the plumbing store, screwed it right on the end of the hose bib, turned it on, seen the PSI. And then far as checking your gallons per minute, I use a 5-gallon bucket. In other words, I can fill up a 5-gallon bucket in 15 seconds.
Damn.
So,
Wow.
So 15 seconds goes into, 60 seconds. And then you just do your math, it equals, 15 seconds to go into 60 4 times. Yeah. Hopefully I'm doing my math right.
Yeah. 20 gallons a minute. Yeah.
That's 20 gallons a minute,
Yep.
But and flip it on, hit your stopwatch on your telephone, and as soon as it's running over, flip it off.
Yeah, and they have those pressure fittings at even Lowe's and stuff too to pick up. They're only $5 or $6 for one.
I just made one, and I also made one with like a jet in it because I was trying to figure out what kind of pressure I had as it was actually flowing. What was left there, and then I was playing around with what do you call it? I can't say that word. Percetic drag or whatever. But just trying to see different hose sizes because I've done a lot of looking in because I built a big sprinkler that's got 1.25 inch feed, 1.25 inch pipe, and it's got a big gun on top of it. And that's the one I run with that 1 inch lay flat. And on it, I actually made 1 inch valves right out of the ground to where I had a ball valve. You turn it on and there's no kind of restriction, no kind of orifice, no kind of gate, nothing in the way, just straight flow. And that thing would blow about 100 foot in one direction. So it'd cover almost a 200-foot circle. Mm-hmm. Because my field is not irrigated. So I'm trying to find ways to, get water on it and, not drag hoses and not be dragging a bunch of sprinklers.
So you guys are saying like there's a pressure tester that you could basically go to Lowe's and buy and hook up to your outside hose bib and turn it on and see what kind of pressure it's telling you.
Yeah, it's
Yep.
almost like a car tire gauge that you put on to your hose faucet. And then you turn on your hose faucet, and then it'll read the PSI that's pressing up against the meter.
Yep, looks just like it. I did mine. I don't know, maybe a month or two back. But one of the guys I work with, he does sprinkler systems on the side, and he was like, "Hey, because he follows me on Instagram. He's like, "Hey, you want to do irrigation in your yard?" I was like, "I don't know, maybe." He was like, "Here, borrow my pressure. Tell me what your PSI is out of your hose bib." So, he just let me borrow it. But it looks just like a tire pressure gauge.
Yeah, and don't
Throw it
go
on
thinking
and
too
let it rip.
don't go thinking if you have like 30 or 40 PSI that you can crank your house pressure up to like 60 or something at the pressure regulator of your meter. You'll blow out your washing machine and all your pipes in your house, dude. Don't do that.
So yeah, I mean, that sounds like it's pretty important. You got to know what kind of pressure you have, and you also need to know how many gallons per minute that you're going to be able to put out before you start going and buying these timers and buying these hoses and buying these sprinkler heads. If you're going to do this above ground, I mean, you may find out you have, 5 gallons a minute of water, and you may not be able to push it out to get very far. That's my guess, anyways.
Dribbler.
Yeah.
So you guys irrigating now? Like, when do you guys normally turn on your systems? Or you guys do it all year round? And I see some questions like, how much are you going for a week?
I haven't turned mine on yet. I set it up a few times for the kids to play in the sprinkler, but I keep an eye on the weather. I keep an eye on the soil. If the soil looks moist, I have clay soils too, so it holds on to the moisture very well. I'll probably look to set it all up in the coming weeks for sure. But yeah, so far, I haven't set anything up yet, and it's been working out okay. But I'm closely monitoring the situation, the weather, the soil. If I can feel that it's moist with my finger, there's no need to water it.
I see a Zach cut right there, man.
Okay.
I wanted to mention one thing too. With my system, I have impact sprinklers on a series of timers, probably similar to Bill, Pharm Dad. I have a system run from the hose bib in the back that's on a timer, and a system in the front to run the front yard. But it's not good enough to get all the way out to my sidewalk. I'm on a corner property, so on the long side of the property, it's not quite enough to get to the sidewalk. So I've got to hit it up with a good old hand job at the at the edge of the lawn there. So
nice.
I've got, I inherited the system, and I learned that whoever put it in didn't really think too much about the zone layout. And so I've got a giant, probably 80-something-year-old maple tree in the front yard.
Oh,
and half of my yard gets very little direct sun, maybe an hour a day. The other half of the front yard gets 5-6 hours a day of direct sun. And the two zones are not sunny, shady. They are street and house. And so it's one way or another, one of those zones is just going to be soaked. And so I'm eager to try some really focused hydrotane this year.
Tell you, Brad, again, I'm not sponsored by Ratio, but I love their controller. That's one thing you can put in is what zone, and you can put how many hours of sun that zone gets, and then it will regulate the watering based on that too.
Yeah, that Ratio sounds pretty sweet.
Yeah,
you did a lot of research into that, right, Brian?
Oh yeah, no, I did because again, I was putting the system in myself, and I wanted to make sure that I got what I got, and it was going to be for the next 10, 15, 20 years even, I don't know, but
what's the price on that?
I got mine actually at Costco, and it was like $50 off, so it was around $200. Mine's a 12 zone ratio, but Zach had a picture of one. It was an 8 zone for like it was 180 or something like that.
Okay.
So,
It's
bad.
the
Yeah,
one
let me pull that back up. I had a photo of like the top 2021 controllers.
they have
There
a
was this-
12 zone. They have a 16 zone. Retro has a 16 zone one, so it just depends. And then like you guys were talking about zones. Some of you guys have a lot of zones. Mine was a new community, and even though the water pressure is good now and the gallon per minute is good, I had to think about that community growing, okay, and then more water being used throughout the community. So instead of making 2 zones and putting 10, 12 heads on them, I ended up making 8 zones, 6 of them, and only put 5 or 6 of those MP rotators on there. So I know down the road I'm going to have plenty of pressure to water my zones with.
I'll put that rain
That's-
machine $527.
Yeah, I don't know anything about that one. That's expensive though.
I think that's really smart of you too, like thinking ahead like that, Brian, in terms of growing community and decreasing water pressure over time. That's that's like it's a pretty pimp way to look at it.
Yeah.
Dave, what do you do down south, man? What's your irrigation like down there?
Like I use a little orbit sled. That's what I've used. It covers my 1,200 square feet pretty nice. But no, I don't have any sprinkler system or irrigation system or anything like that. I wish I did. Well, actually, when I was building the house, I told the builder to tell me when he was gonna lay the sod, so I can hire someone to go put the the plumbing and everything under. But then he put the concrete on top, and it was already too late. So I was like, whatevs. And then manual irrigation, and then the little orbit sled that I use. That's all.
Dude, you have to get a timer, man.
I wish, man.
Hey,
Dude,
Nate,
$50?
what do you do?
Come
I want to know what Nate does.
Ooh,
Nate
yeah.
Dogg.
Nate Dogg.
Yeah. So currently I have basically like 2 DIY systems set up, 3 Hunter MP rotator heads on each line. So then I have basically like the programmable timer like you guys showed earlier. I just have one that's got two zones on it. One of the zones, like I said, I run off 25-foot hose, and then ahead, 25-foot ahead, 25-foot and ahead. I'll run that towards the front of my house. Then I have another one that runs to the back of the house on like the south side, and I kind of have the mirror image on the north side. And then I just set up for about 4 o'clock in the morning for one side to go off, and then about 4:45 the other one goes off, and run them. I try and do it 3 days a week. I usually try and do like one day, then I'll give it 2 or 3 days, and I try and do 2 days back to back, and then I'll give it like 3 days off. That's kind of the pattern that I settled on. I don't know if there's any rhyme or reason. That's just kind of the pattern that I liked. So I stuck with it. I kind of based it around like my mowing too, because I don't like to mow the night that if I water in the morning, I don't like to mow that night. I like to essentially mow mow and then water that night. So if I mow on Monday, then I'll water Tuesday morning.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like to do it the other way around. I don't like to irrigate Monday morning and then mow Monday night. I don't know, just something about it. I don't like that traffic on there.
Mm-hmm.
So that's
You got
kind
a
of
heavy time master too.
yeah. It leaves those tire marks.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, so I as far as hoses, I know we were talking about earlier, I have like a 5/8 hose, those Flexzilla, those orange one or the neon like green ones.
Mm-hmm.
I really like those. I think the quality of them is really good. Price is not too crazy bad, but I really, really like those hoses. But then for the one in my backyard that doesn't have the heads and the MP rotators, it's just like a circular sprinkler, the whatever the hell they're called. I just have a cheap like Walmart $10 clearance out hose on that thing. it works, it does the trick, but like it's a pain in the ass to like wind up, and you know, when I pull it all out, it kinks, and it drives me nuts. But it was super, super cheap. And I mean, a lot of times, like, you know, some of you guys talked about, like, I'll mow, then I'll get it out and I'll leave it out, water, 2 days not water, then water, and then I'll put it away, and then like I'll mow. So in between, like the days I'm not mowing and not watering, I'll leave it sit out sometimes, but usually always for like the weekend. Like if I'm gonna water on like a Friday, then I'll put it away for the weekend, just so it kind of looks a little bit better. More kids out in the yard on the weekend, stuff like that. So I'll put it away for the weekend.
Yeah. I always hate when your hose kinks when you pull it out. You know, some of you guys don't know your hoses aren't big enough to have to worry about that. But some of us,
when you get the bend, like right or left,
the curve,
the curve.
Your hose
but that actually, I actually do have a question about that. I mean, for any of you guys that are using a garden hose based irrigation system, like a, you know, above ground kind of thing, I have like probably the absolute worst luck in choosing hoses. Every hose that I've ever purchased in the last 12 years that I've owned my house has been absolute shit. So do any of you guys have a good recommendation on a hose? I mean, Nate, you just kind of mentioned one.
It's a good question.
It is nice.
Where can I find a good hose?
Yeah, you want to
that's not going to kink.
You got to have
that's just not going to be total garbage.
You don't want a kinky hose.
Yeah.
Here's like one thing, and I don't know if it was talked about. I had to step away for a little bit, but like when you're picking hoses for like your irrigation stuff, you know, you got like the expandable hoses. So like they might be like 25 foot, and you turn them on, they become 50 foot. Like you don't want those if you're using like your DIY irrigation with your spikes and everything, because like if you set it up all stretched out and put them down, did we already talk about that or no?
No, but that's a great point.
Okay. But yeah, so when you turn it off, it's going to want to retract, and it'll want to yank your stakes out or do whatever, or it's going to put, you know, it might rip your hose or do whatever. But so that's something to consider. That I actually really like the expandable hoses, just from how, like, you know, they store a lot nicer and stuff like that. But I use those for different things, you know, washing the truck or doing whatever. But I don't use those in my irrigation. So, but like I said, that's why I chose the Flexilla. I really liked, I don't know, I went, I felt it, you know, I was at the store feeling a whole bunch of different hoses and
want some hose,
you know,
feeling up the hose.
Did any of them stand up?
I had to feel out the different hose.
Hey, speaking of that, like, you guys got some hose management down? Like, you know, how do you handle your hose?
I just got one of those hose link reels for my birthday.
Nice.
One of those.
Really excited about that. What's that, Dave?
I'm looking into getting one of those as well.
Some of those reels like that you can just wind up. I really need to get one of them.
Cool.
Yeah.
I had one of the manual ones that you crank like this, and without fail, no matter what, every time I put it away, I was covered in whatever I was putting down on the hose end, or covered in grass blades or dirt, and you know. So I finally said, I'm getting some that auto retracts. Yeah, I can ask for it for my birthday as a bonus.
I'll have to make some kind of a post or something. But when I set my hoses out, I try to hide them and tuck them around the different, you know, the flower beds, and kind of fish them around between the garage or the driveway as it goes along the garage, and it just kind of comes out. You know, I try to hide it as best I can, but they're just regular old, you know, green hoses. And I mow tall in the summer just because it's cool season. We're in the Midwest, it gets real hot. The grass just does better tall. So most of the time, going over the hose of the mower, it does just fine. But every now and then I'll hit it. I'm like, you know, I ruined that hose. But I just buy the cheap ones, man. Walmart, whatever they got, Home Depot, the cheap ones, because I know they're not going to last all that long. And you can buy those little adapter ends where you can kind of turn them into a short hose, or you can use what you have left over from I've used them from what I've mowed over and destroyed.
Yeah.
Shorter hoses. And then I get it for other areas too. But yeah, I mean, I just get the cheap stuff that just kind of sits out there. The green hoses, whatever it is, because I know eventually I'm going to hit it with the mower and it's going to be destroyed.
Yeah, so winging it, he's a 0G. I actually got a 0G. It's those Faber ones, but yeah, I wouldn't recommend that for using as a sprinkler setup because it seriously will kink real easy.
Those things are aggravating.
Yeah.
And I got a bunch of those. And if you try to use them with some type of hose in sprayer,
yeah,
they're okay. If I bought a bunch of them like 25 feet long, that way I could put them in between sprinklers and they're okay in the straight line.
Mm-hmm.
But if you put some type of hose in sprayer on it from Simple Lawn Solutions or your Hydrotane, those things are a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
They just want to kink. Yeah. They're garbage.
And I got a like I said, it was a contractor grade. It's a red hose. I think it was at Lowe's. I think they still have it. 5/8 inch one. I mean, that would be pretty ideal because it's got a lot of pressure that'll come through it and stuff. So
yeah, and Costco usually has a good deal too on their like the 50 or 100-foot sections of contractor hose for like $20 or $30. So
yeah,
I use that on
probably going to go buy new hoses tomorrow.
Yeah,
because I'm done. I'm done with like everything that I got going on. So how do you guys store them? You know, I know Vince, you know, he has, Vince, you have some crazy like hose reel thing, right? And I was just looking at, you know, the other day, I think it was Lawn Shark. If you guys follow him, he just got like one of those Olee reels, I think it is.
Yes.
So I mean, I just have like I have the
mortgage your house to get one of those. Yeah,
yeah, I think they're pretty expensive, right?
They are.
But I mean, I just have those like those copper, those like metal. I don't know what you call them. They're like bowls, right? You just kind of like wind your hose up in it, kind of lay it in there. But what are you guys using to store those? To store any, you know, garden hoses, stuff like that? Vince, what's the one you have? What's the one you have, Vince?
I have the Olee. So what I was going to say earlier, so I have the Olee for reel and the Olee hose with the Olee fittings. Yes, it's very expensive. Okay. But it is
10% off.
No. It's very expensive, but it comes with a 10-year warranty.
Hold on. I'm sorry.
That's a classic.
I'm sorry.
I love it.
So it comes with a 10-year warranty, and you know it's bulletproof. I mean, it's totally worth it. So, you know, if you're replacing hose every year, the cheap hose, I mean, I feel like it pays for itself over a 10-year period. If you're paying $20-$30 a year for 10 years replacing hose, you know, my Olee hose reel, not the reel, but the hose itself, 75 feet, it was like $140. Like, it's not cheap, but it comes with that 10-year warranty. It's made in the USA. It is lightweight. It's kink resistant. It's also approved for drinking water purposes. So if you're using it for, you know, RVing or anything like that.
Nice.
So it's really nice. And the brass fittings on it are unbeatable.
Oh, that situation that you like when you posted that reel the other day, I was like, that's what
legit.
I need. That's
it's legit.
Fire.
Yeah.
Straight. That's
totally
super
worth
rad.
It. Totally
Very
worth it.
convenient. 100%.
Do you have the real cart or the real wagon?
I have it's the 2-wheel one.
Okay.
So it's not the 4-wheel one. It's the 2-wheel one.
I didn't know they're making like drinking water safe ones now. That's like the official sports drink of being a kid is drinking out of the hose with that rubbery metal water taste.
Yeah.
Most of the hoses now actually stayed on there. Like, this is safe for drinking water or whatever.
Interesting.
So yeah, it's stated on there now.
Hey guys, real quick, we're about an hour and 15 minutes into this. So I wanted to let everybody know, because of our Instagram reaching 1,000 followers, we're going to plan a Instagram giveaway. So keep an eye out for that. And we're going to get one of those cool Keep Off the Grass shirts as that giveaway. So keep an eye on, we're going to do the Instagram post, let you guys do that. So come follow us on Instagram. It is at keep.off.the.grass at Instagram. So just want to give that shout out real quick before we wrap this up.
That's right.
All right, guys. Good episode.
Yeah.
Learned a lot.
Kept it moist. Nice job, guys.
All right, guys.
Thanks.
Have a good night.
Thanks a lot for
Have a
having
good
me
night,
on, guys.
everybody.
Yeah, Brad,
Yeah.
thanks for coming out.
Thank
Yeah,
you,
man.
Awesome,
Thanks,
awesome
man.
job, Brad. Thanks, man.
Thanks, everybody.
All right.
There it is.